Nora Speaks is a weekly podcast that tugs at the soul and consciousness of the Black community. With show topics such as youth empowerment, education, women's impact, and civic engagement, Nora Speaks challenges the listener to not only join the movement, but be the movement. On the show, you'll learn from insightful guests who have demonstrated capacity in these fields and more, and I'm your host, Nora Muhammad. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast, and I am your host, Nora Muhammad. It is a privilege and it is a pleasure to be with you again this week. Thank you so much for your support, for coming back week after week, for engaging in this content, for your feedback, for your love, for your criticism, for your support, for your shares, for your likes. I really, truly appreciate it. And this podcast is truly a labor of love. It is a service that I believe that I'm responsible to give to my people and to my community. The Nora Speaks podcast is aimed to tug on the soul and consciousness of the Black community so that we can have conversation and insight into those areas of the Black community where we really have to work to improve, whether that's education, whether that's women's issues, whether that's youth empowerment, violence reduction, economic empowerment, health, safety. You know, there's so much that we have to address in the Black community. And while some are being entertained or entertaining, Nora Speaks is a podcast that wants to be informative. And so I am back again with another episode 131. And it is just exciting to think about that I'm nearing my 150th podcast episode. You know, when you start any endeavor, you know, episode 1, 2, 10, 14, 15, it's something that's exciting. And even as I am nearing my 150th episode, each episode that I sit down to record is taken with great deliberation, great consideration, you know, in thinking about what it is that our people need, the conversations that we need to have. You know, I don't take this lightly. I take this very, very seriously. And I want to be relevant. And I want this podcast to be relevant to the needs of our people. And so this is 131. And I'm just very excited to have been consistent in all this time, to have been dedicated. I thank God. And actually, you know, before I record every episode, I really strive to do a download and open myself up to what is needed in the context of the Black community. It's not about what it is that I might want to say to the community, but it's also, and more importantly, about what kinds of conversations do we need to have. If you're going to serve the people, we can't do it with our vanity in the way or with our vanity leading. This really has to be about the needs of the people. And so that's what I strive to do, reach the needs of the people through the podcast, through the work that I do in my community, so that we can really improve those outcomes in those areas that I mentioned earlier where we are in dire need of advancement. And so in this episode 131, I want to talk about reactive leadership. And I came to this conversation or to this subject, although this has really been on my mind for quite some time. I see now more than ever that we really have to have this conversation because our community needs good leaders, good and strong leaders. And leaders are not made overnight. Leaders are made over years and years of an individual being shaped and molded. And I'm not just talking about somebody who is filling a seat, but I'm talking about somebody who is leading people, who, whether that's through pastoral care in religion, whether that's through politics and government, or if we're talking about medical leaders, you know, teachers, parents, right? So someone who is in the role of a leader, that comes after experiences, after learning, after studying, after an apprenticeship, through grooming. It is not just something that somebody walks into. Because if you walk into a position where you should be leading others without having been a follower, without having done any study, without having had a mentor, without having been an apprentice, what can you really give the people except what it is that's in your own mind, but that hasn't been tested, that hasn't been tried anywhere? When we are by ourselves in the mirror, we're certainly the best that we've ever come across. But we have to take what we have out into the field of endeavor, and we have to work on our skills and work on our personality. We have to work on our character. And that has to come by our interactions and engagements with others. That has to come by us being trained, by us learning, by us making mistakes, by us taking correction. So leaders are not made overnight. It is a year and years long process of a person's experiences, of those who have led them, and being a student to that leader. So our community needs strong leaders, and we need leaders that are responsive but not reactive. And in our community, we have a lot of reactive leadership, and reactive leadership is not effective leadership. And so this is a common shortcoming that we see in the Black community. What do I mean by reactive? I mean, they're easily shaken up. They're easily shocked. They're easily disturbed. They're easily made unsteady. They react and they're responsive immediately, whether it's to criticism, whether it's to some event that's happened in the town or in the community or among the congregation. Some leaders are beefing on social media. They're getting into arguments in a public space, sometimes with their constituents, sometimes with other leaders. And they're doing this in a public space instead of using the benefit and the influence that their title affords them to address the matter in a more appropriate way. And this is reactive. When a leader or a parent, for that matter, a teacher, when a leader is reactive, we are moving without the benefit of an investigation, without context, without clarity, and often without vision. So what we have to know is that we don't have to give a response immediately to everything. We don't always have to give our opinion or give our position on an issue, on a comment, on a post. We don't always have to be so reactive where we're sharing our thoughts or our ideas without those thoughts and ideas being fully developed, because we didn't give ourselves the benefit of study and time. So our people that we're serving, they might want us to react immediately. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? That's not right. They might want an immediate response. They might want an immediate reaction from us. And that's fine. But what they need from us is to be responsible. So just because your constituent, your congregant, your student, just because they want something or they want to hear your position right away, well, there's no reason for us to give an opinion or give a response without fully vetting the issue, because we could be acting in ignorance because we haven't done the proper investigation. So leaders must be slow to speak, and they have to act with decisiveness and deliberation. And so I came across a Bible verse. It's in James 1, chapter 1, verses 19 and 20. And I'm sure you probably have heard this verse. And it says, "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. And I repeat that. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. So this is telling us we can't be hasty. We can't be hasty because the people want us to be, or maybe we might want to be hasty ourselves. I have to tell you, there's so much that's happening in this country, especially as we're preparing for a presidential election coming in November. And I come across just ridiculous and incredible material on social media. And whether it's a presidential election or not, there's just such outrageous commentary on social media. And of course, I want to give a response. I want to say, this is ridiculous. Why would you say this? I want to give my opinion, but nobody's asking for it. And it's not appropriate. I don't need to respond to everything that comes in front of me. It could be discussion for a podcast episode later. It could be a conversation that I have with my family. It could be a conversation that I have with friends. But I don't have to. You don't have to. We don't have to just give an immediate response because we might read something or see something that is so incendiary. I mean, we're not that far from the brutal, inhumane murder of our brother George Floyd, and many of us felt very strongly about that. But just because we felt strongly about it doesn't mean that we should be reactive to it. We have to take time. We have to think about things. We have to deliberate over things. We have to move with wisdom. We have to move without emotion. And that is what I mean about these leaders being very reactive. When something happens, they feel a thing. And because they feel a thing, then they have to respond to the thing. And so as we just read here from the book of James in the Bible, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath, slow to emotions, slow to responding verbally, slow to speak, but swift, quickly to hear. So it is not good for us to jump from one issue to another, from one crisis to another, without the benefit of perspective. Because when we do that, we can create a crisis unintentionally for us or for other people, especially the people that we're serving. So as a leader, we have to be wise. As a leader has to be disciplined. A leader has to be steady. So if an issue arises in your congregation, in your constituents, in your community, in your school, in your classroom, we have to investigate. Investigate means getting the facts, not the perspective, not the opinions, and not the attitudes, but get all of the facts. Do not rush to conclusions. Do not rush to judgments. Be like a bystander. Get the facts. Investigate. And then we have to contextualize. We have to understand the circumstances. And sometimes to get a clear understanding of the circumstances, then we might have to seek counsel from someone that has more insight than us, that has more knowledge than us, that has more expertise than us. Sometimes we have to go seek counsel. And there's no weakness in doing that. And then we respond. And when we respond with the facts of the matter and not with our emotions or what we feel about the matter or what other people feel about the matter. And when we respond, we don't have to do it emotionally, right? We don't have to be emotional in our response. As a leader, we cannot be reactive. We have to move with purpose and definition. I see people in my local community and they're like a jack in a box. Every time there's an issue, they're jumping up and like, just calm down, be steady. We don't have to jump up every time that something happens. Be steady, keep working, keep going. Address things as they need to be. Address things appropriately, But be steady. Just keep going. Keep going. Because if you're always involved, then you don't have to jump up to react because you're already in the mix of things. You already know what's going on. We can't move just to move. Have you seen someone that is moving a lot but going nowhere? This can be us, but we don't want this to be us. And reactive people move a lot, but they're not going anywhere. And lastly, I'll say again, we have to be slow to speak. And once we investigate, once we contextualize, sometimes by getting counsel from someone who has more wisdom, experience, insight, expertise, and then, and only then, do we act with deliberation. We have to be very focused. We have to be very guided in our actions if we're going to be a successful leader, because the people that we are leading need us to be responsible. Sure, they might want us to react. Sure, they might want us to be reactive and reactionary, but we have to be wise if we're going to lead them properly. Somebody has to keep the cool head. Somebody has to make a decision for the team. And you don't want the person making the decision for the team, the person that's the hothead, the person that's emotional, right? Somebody has to keep a cool head. And that is something that a leader must do. Do not be reactive. Do not be reactive. The people don't need that from you. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. I look forward to being back with you again next week for episode 132. But until next time, stay in peace. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Nora Speaks podcast. Be on the lookout for a new episode coming at you fresh next week. And as always, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do, visit my website, norahmuhammad.com. Or if you have a listener question, email me at info@norahspeaks.com. You can also follow the Nora Speaks podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Nora Speaks Podcast. I'll be sure to include links in the show notes. If this show has value to you, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with family and friends. And be sure to check out previous episodes. And remember, don't just join the movement, be the movement. Stay in peace.